People used to call me a man who had it all: money, recognition, respect. And for a long time, I believed them. I built everything I owned from the ground up. No shortcuts, no miracles, no luck. Just long days, late nights, and the kind of focus that makes people uncomfortable to be around. I believed if you worked hard enough, you could bend the world to your will. And I did, or at least I thought I did. I ran companies. I gave speeches that filled arenas. I sat across from governors, CEOs, and kids who told me I inspired them. They gave me awards for leadership, plaques for charity, and handshakes that meant I'd made it. But deep down, every time someone said, "God blessed you," I'd laugh inside. God didn't build this. I did. My brother used to hate when I said that. He was nothing like me. Small town man. Woke up before sunrise, still worked with his hands. Didn't care about money. He'd tell me, "You don't always have to win, you know." And I'd tell him, "That's what losers say." He'd just smile, never argued, never bit back. He was calm in a way that made me nervous, like he knew something I didn't. He was the peaceful one, I tell people now. Always said faith gives you peace. And I'd laugh. Peace doesn't build empires. We talked every few weeks. He'd call late at night, ask if I'd eaten, ask how I was really doing. I'd brush it off: too busy, too tired, too important. One night he said, "When's the last time you slowed down?" I told him, "When the world does." He laughed that same easy, steady laugh I grew up with. I didn't know that'd be the last time he'd ask. You see, I loved him, but I never said it. Not once. I thought he knew. Strong men don't say things like that, we show it. Well, that's what I told myself. Truth is, I never thanked him. Not for the nights he picked me up when I was broke. Not for the times he told me I was becoming someone he barely recognized. And not for believing in something bigger than himself, something I used to laugh at. He'd always tell me, "One day you'll understand." I'd shake my head. "No, I'll prove it." There was one promise I broke, a trip we planned, just a weekend. Fishing, old cabin, no phones. He called to confirm. I said, "Next weekend, I promise." But next weekend never came. Funny thing about strong men, we never say the words that matter. And sometimes, by the time we're ready, there's no one left to hear them. I didn't know it then. But that night, that call was the last time I heard my brother's voice. The call came in the middle of a meeting. I remember the sound, just a regular phone vibration, cutting through the room like a warning I didn't understand yet. I looked at the screen. It was a number from back home. I almost ignored it. Almost. When I answered, the voice on the other end was shaking. "Morgan, I'm so sorry. It's your brother." I froze. "What about him?" Silence. Then there was an accident. My chest went cold. "Is he?" The answer came before I finished. I didn't hear much after that, just static. The room around me faded out. I stood there holding the phone like it might bring him back if I didn't hang up. Hours passed, I think. Maybe more. I didn't move. The office emptied. Someone turned the lights off and didn't even notice I was still there. I tried to drink water, but my hand was shaking so bad it spilled across my desk. No tears, no screams, just nothing. Like my body forgot how to feel. The anger came later, loud, hot, and wild. I smashed the glass against the wall and shouted at the ceiling. Why him? Why not me? Everyone kept saying the same damn thing. God has a plan. Everything happens for a reason. If one more person said that, I swear I would have lost it. At the funeral, When a preacher said God works in mysterious ways, I stood up and walked out. Couldn't listen, couldn't breathe. After that, I disappeared. Phone off, curtains closed, no visitors. The house was too quiet. Every sound, the ticking clock, the wind outside, it all hurt. I sat there in the dark, staring at the chair he used to sit in when he visited. I whispered, "You believed in him your whole life, and he took you first." The words burned coming out. I looked at his picture on the table. "If that's love," I said, "what does hate look like?" Then I turned it face down. I tried to go back to work, but nothing worked. The same office that once made me feel powerful now felt hollow. People looked at me like I was broken glass. When someone said, "I'm praying for you," I just walked away. A friend stopped by one night. "You need church, man. You need something." I snapped. "Church took my brother. Don't you get that?" The glass in my hand shattered. He left. I didn't stop him. That night, I sat alone, eyes red, chest empty, too tired to yell, too proud to cry. I looked up and said quietly, "I don't want to hear your name again. Not from anyone, not anywhere." The words echoed through the silence like they were swallowed whole. That's when I realized the silence was louder than faith. I went back to work the Monday after the funeral. Everyone said it was too soon. Maybe it was. But I couldn't stand sitting still, the same office, the same schedule, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. Meetings blurred together. Faces moved. Mouths open, but I couldn't hear a thing. Someone laughed at a joke I didn't catch. I forced a smile, nodded, pretended I was still there. When I walked in, my assistant said, "Good to have you back, sir." I answered, "Yeah, good to be back." But inside, I knew that was a lie. Every motion felt like muscle memory, handshakes, signatures, polite smiles. Nothing connected, nothing meant anything. That night, I came home, looked in the bathroom mirror, and just stared. The man looking back at me, same eyes, same face, but empty. I whispered, "You're still here, but you're gone." The nights were the hardest. The house used to hum with noise, phone calls, music, something. Now it just breathed silence. I turned the TV on for background sound, but I never watched. Dinner was a single plate, a glass of wine, and the empty chair across from me. Sometimes I caught myself looking at it, expecting to hear his voice again. I'd pour another glass and mutter, "You'd know what to say right now, wouldn't you?" No answer. Just the clock ticking. Tick, tick, tick. I leaned back, stared at the ceiling, and tried not to think. Then came the arguments. Not with people, with God. Every night, it started the same way. If you're good, why him? If you're real, why silence? At first, it was just quiet questions in my head. Then they got louder. I'd walk around the living room, hands shaking, saying out loud, "You watching now? You proud of this?" Nothing. No whisper, no warmth, just walls. I'd yell until I lost my voice, and when the anger drained out, I just sat there sweating, shaking, breathing hard. Finally, I said it out loud. "I'm not talking to you anymore." And still, I couldn't stop. It was like trying to quit a fight you didn't start. I tried to drown it out with work, got to the office earlier than anyone, left later than everyone, stacked up projects, calls, meetings, anything to keep from thinking. People said, "You're strong, man. You're handling this well." I smiled and said, "Thanks." But they didn't see that all I was doing was hiding. When I wasn't working, I was out. Bars, fundraisers, banquets, loud places where silence couldn't reach me. A friend clapped my shoulder once and said, "You look good, Morgan." I nodded. Yeah, sure. But the truth was, I hadn't felt good in months. The breaking point came at an awards ceremony. They gave me a plaque, Lifetime Achievement. Standing under the lights, people cheering, cameras flashing, I felt nothing. I smiled for photos, said my thank yous, shook hands, then left. When I got home, I placed the award on the table, didn't even look at it. I won everything, I whispered, and lost the only thing that mattered. The words hung in the air like smoke. No one there to hear them, just me. The next morning, I was making coffee when something slipped out. What if he's not there at all? It wasn't anger. It was curiosity, exhausted curiosity. I froze. Then I said it again, quietly. If he's not there, then what's the point? The coffee went cold. I never drank it. That's when I realized I wasn't grieving anymore. I was just hollow. No pain, no faith. Just a kind of quiet that eats you from the inside out. That night, I turned off every light in the house. No TV, no music, just rain tapping the window. I sat on the couch, breathing in the dark, and said, I used to talk to God. Now I just talk to myself. It came out softer than I meant, but it hit harder than anything I'd ever said. I laid back, stared at the ceiling, no prayer, no plea. For the first time in months, I didn't fight it. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty. And sometimes emptiness sounds a lot like peace. I stared at the ceiling until the numbers on the clock bled into each other. 2:47. I wasn't sleepy. I wasn't awake. I was just stuck. The room felt tight, pictures on the dresser, lamp by the bed, all of it pressing in. I swung my legs over the side and sat there a second, hands on my knees, breathing like a man, counting to 10 and never making it past 5. I grabbed my jacket, keys off the dish by the door. No note, no plan. I didn't even put on socks. I just told the empty house, I need to move. And the door shut behind me like it was relieved I finally got out. Engine, turn, headlights, wet black street. The neighborhood was asleep, but the rain woke it. First a soft patter, then the kind that turns sidewalks into shiny streams. The wipers kept time left, right, like a heartbeat when you're trying to calm down and it refuses. I didn't pick a direction. I let the road make small choices for me, right at the old corner store, straight past the school, out where the streetlights get thin and the trees lean in. I said it out loud, rough from a throat that hadn't said anything worth hearing all week. If you're out there, give me something, anything. Rain answered by getting louder. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles hurt and laughed without humor. That's what I thought. I made it to the edge of town and stopped dead. Tires squealed a little, then went quiet. I cut the engine. The car filled with the sound of water hitting glass. I put my forehead to the steering wheel and sucked air like it might have answers in it. Why'd you take him? Came out hard, then cracked. Why'd you leave me standing here with all this? I swallowed. What am I supposed to do with it? Nobody answered. No thunder, no voice. Just me and a storm and a grief that didn't know where to sit. I waited for a feeling, any feeling. Then I whispered, you win. You always win, and let out a bitter little chuckle that hurt my chest. I turned the key again. Headlights swept a ditch and a fence and a small road I hadn't noticed. No name on it, just a wooden sign with flaking paint, St. Mark's Chapel. I stared a second. Don't know why. Then I turned the wheel and followed it. Gravel rolled under the tires. Brick came up on my left, dark with rain. The building looked tired and stubborn in the same breath. A small cross at the peak, two narrow windows leaking warm light. I cut the engine and sat in that soft hush a car makes after it stops, like the world is holding its breath. Guess even God's houses don't sleep, I said to no one, and opened the door. The rain had thinned to a mist that found the back of my neck. The front door was half closed. I could see the rows of benches, a book left open, a broom leaned against the wall. An old man moved slow between the aisles, picking up scraps of paper and putting them in a bin. I took one step back, ready to leave, when he lifted his head and pinned me with the kind of look that doesn't need a name. "Evening, Mr. Freeman," he said, steady as a handshake. "I didn't mean to intrude," I answered, "just passing through." He smiled like he'd heard that 1,000 times and never believed it once. People don't end up here by accident. I stood under the eave. Water slid from my hairline to my collar. Inside was a world I didn't trust. Outside was a world that didn't want me tonight. I stayed between them, hands in my pockets, feeling the dumb weight of keys I had no use for. "You believe that?" I asked. "That nothing's accidental?" "I've seen too much not to," he said. He didn't preach it. He just set it down like a cup of coffee and let it be. I let a breath out slow. "I'm fine," I said. "Just needed air." "Then stand as long as you need," he said. "The door's open." He went back to gathering hymn sheets. Didn't hover, didn't corner me. That, more than anything, kept me from walking away. I looked in at those empty benches, the old wood polished by people I'd never meet. No music, no crowd, just a space that didn't demand anything. I put my hand on the doorknob, cold metal. I turned it a little, felt the latch click, then let it go. My fingers left a wet print that faded quick. I looked up at the cross, then down at my shoes, then out at the parking lot where my car sat like a patient dog waiting for me to call it back. The pastor didn't move. He just let the quiet do what it was doing. My chest loosened and tightened like it couldn't make up its mind. I tried to form the sentence I'd been choking on for weeks, a sentence with too many questions and not enough breath to hold them. "You look like a man who's been walking in the rain too long," he said at last. From the aisle, not much louder than the rain. "I am," I said. Simple as that. "I am." He nodded once. The door's still open. I stayed where I was. I didn't step in. I didn't leave. I watched a drop of water run down the frame and vanish. My jaw worked for something to say. All I found was this: if you're out there, I'm here. It wasn't brave. It wasn't pretty. It was the most honest thing I'd said since the day my brother's phone went dark. I looked in one more time. The room didn't change. I did. A little. Not much. Just enough to notice I was breathing again. I didn't know it yet. I tell you now, but that was the closest I had come to peace in years. The rain had settled into a soft whisper. I stood under the eave, arms folded across my chest, watching drops slide off the gutter and break on the steps. I wasn't going in. I wasn't leaving. I was just holding, like a man stuck between two breaths. The door creaked a little wider. Warm light spilled across the floorboards and touched my shoes. From inside, a voice calm, not pushy, drifted out. "You waiting for something?" I lifted my eyes. Maybe I am. He stepped into the doorway with a broom in his hand, sleeves rolled up, no robe, no halo, just a tired old man who looked like he'd cleaned this place more times than he could count. You can come in, he said. I don't lock the doors at night. I took one step over the threshold and stopped. The air carried wax, wood, and paper quiet smells that don't compete for space. He went back to dusting, like I was a regular and this was an ordinary hour. You really think he listens? I asked. After everything? He listens, he said. Eyes on the altar, even when we don't talk. A dry laugh slipped out of me. I stopped talking a long time ago. Maybe that's why you came. I didn't have a comeback. I just stared at the rows of empty benches, the small cross up front, the candle that refused to go out. I sat in the last pew, knees wide, hands gripping them like I could hold myself together if I squeezed hard enough. My voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I used to think I understood him. Do right, work hard, keep your word, and life would line up, like math. The broom went still. He set it aside and took a seat 3 rows up, turned slightly so he could see me without staring me down. When he spoke, he slowed the words as if he wanted them to land upright. You don't have to understand God to trust him. Everything in me tightened. My jaw, my fingers, the space behind my eyes. I opened my mouth to argue, to throw a lifetime of questions at that one sentence, but nothing came out. Only air. Silence stretched between us. Not heavy, not light, just true. He nodded once, as if we'd reached the hard place and didn't need to dress it up. That's the hardest part, isn't it? He said. I looked away from the cross. I couldn't carry its gaze and his at the same time, and I didn't know which one made me feel more seen. I gave the smallest nod a man can give and still call it an answer. He rose, walked down the aisle, and paused beside me. His hand settled on my shoulder, warm, steady, human. He didn't pray over me, didn't bless me, didn't try to fill the room with holy words. He just stood there with me, long enough for my breathing to match something other than my anger. Good night, Mr. Freeman, he said, letting go. The door's hinges sighed when he pushed it wide. Footsteps, then the soft click as it found the latch. The room breathed. So did I. I don't know how long I stayed. 5 minutes. 50. Time loosened its grip. My eyes traced the old paint on the windowsills, the scuffs on the pews, the way the candle flame leaned and straightened like it had its own small will to live. Ordinary things. Solid things. Things that don't shout. I bowed my head and tried the sentence on my tongue, like a suit I never thought I'd wear. You don't have to understand God to trust him. My voice wavered. I said it again, slower, letting it settle. To trust him. A single tear slid down and didn't ask for permission. I didn't wipe it. The show was over. No audience left to impress. I took a long breath and felt it reach places I hadn't visited in months. I stood and found my way back to the night. The rain had thinned to mist. The lot glistened. I opened the car, sank into the seat, and let my head fall against the rest. I didn't start the engine. The key dangled, quiet. I've spent my whole life trying to be strong, I said to the roof, to the dark, to whoever keeps track of stubborn men. Maybe that's why I'm so tired. I waited. Nothing answered, and for the first time, that felt all right. A small laugh broke loose, tired but honest. Guess I don't have to be tonight. The wipers ticked once when I brushed the stalk by accident. A bead of water crawled down the glass and vanished at the edge. I watched it like it was going somewhere I couldn't follow. In the rear view, the chapel held its little pool of light. It landed in my eyes and turned them softer than they had any right to be. I spoke low, just for me. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to look strong. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been saving. Hands unclenched, shoulders dropped. The seat caught my weight like it had been waiting. That night I said, and the word surprised me by not breaking, I didn't win, I didn't lose, I just stopped fighting. I closed my eyes. The rain, the key, the lingering scent of wax on a coat I'd never wear, everything stayed where it was. Nothing moved me along. Nothing rushed the moment. And for once, I didn't rush it either. I kept the engine off. Rain tapped the glass and held the street lights in place like they were floating. My hands were on the wheel, tight, then loose, then nowhere at all. I let them slide to my lap. Breath in, breath out. No speech to give, no room to command, no one to impress, just me and the night. I thought I could fix everything if I just worked harder, I said to the empty car. It sounded small in there, the kind of small that tells on you. Nobody answered. The wipers sat still like folded arms. I closed my eyes and let my head fall back against the rest. The leather had that old sun-baked smell. I felt the fight leave my shoulders, inch by inch. Not a collapse, just gravity finally having its way. Silence came like a visitor I'd kept outside too long. No radio, no phone buzzing, no calendar clawing at me. I opened my eyes to the liner of the roof, lit faint from the lamp outside. It was nothing, and somehow it was enough. A thought slipped in without asking permission. Maybe quiet isn't a punishment. Maybe it's an answer. I didn't chase the thought. I let it sit with me. Breath slowed, chest lightened. Heat moved across my back, not from the vents, not from the coat, a simple easing, like a hand that says it's all right without touching you. If this is what peace feels like, I said, almost laughing, I didn't know it could be this quiet. I looked down at my hands. These hands had signed contracts, pulled people together, pushed them harder, steered storms. I watched them tremble, not from fear, but from letting go of the wheel inside me. I spent my life trying to be in control, I said. The words came easy, then caught. Maybe that's why I kept losing what I couldn't control. A small smile found its way onto my face. It wasn't for show. It wasn't armor. It was the first one I'd worn that didn't need an audience. The pastor's line rose from the back of my mind like a level truth. You don't have to understand God to trust him. It didn't land like a sermon this time. It landed like a fact. I sat up and looked through the wet glass at the street, now more mist than rain. The world was still out there, unbothered. I wasn't trying to win an argument anymore. I wasn't building a case. If you are really there, I whispered, steady, I'm done fighting you. It wasn't loud, didn't need to be. It left me the way a heavy stone leaves your hand when you finally decide to set it down. No thunder answered, no burst of light, just breath warm, even moving all the way in for the first time in a long time. My mouth shook like a man who'd carried something too far for too long. I let my head fall back again and exhaled until there was nothing left to push out. And then I let the car hold me. The quiet widened. Rain softened to a hush. I felt the peaceful kind of tired, not the bone-ache kind. No questions, no deals. The room inside my chest stopped shrinking and started to open. Stillness settled over everything. The church across the way kept its lamp on like a patient neighbor. I didn't need to go anywhere. I didn't need to prove a point to a God I couldn't out-talk anyway. I didn't need to make sense of the hurt that wouldn't answer me. For once, I let things be exactly what they were. Let go, something said inside. Not a voice, just a clear instruction. I didn't argue, I followed it. I cracked the window and drew in the night air. It was clean from the rain and cool enough to wake the back of my throat. I held it a second and let it go slow. Again, again. On the third breath, I heard myself confess, soft as a secret, for the first time, I don't need to win. My hands loosened. My neck stopped fighting the weight of my head. Eyelids lowered without the old twitch that begged for caffeine. The world outside kept standing like it always had: poles, lines, puddles, brick, glass. But the world inside finally sat down. I thought of nothing and no one. Not the schedule, not the loss, not the empty chair at the table or the calls I hadn't returned. All of it could wait their turn. Tonight belonged to the simplest act I'd forgotten how to do: being still while being alive. I let the window up and closed my eyes. Rain faded to memory. The city's hum flattened to a faraway lull. A smile, almost invisible, pulled at my cheek. It didn't ask permission. It didn't need a reason. It was there because the fight wasn't. That night, I said to the dark, I stopped fighting God, and for the first time, I slept in peace. The words landed and didn't bounce back. They stayed warm and close. I breathed like a man who'd finally reached the shore and didn't have to explain how he got there. No music swelled, no clock ticked. The only sound left was my own even breathing, steady as a promise I could keep. I let go of the last bit of tension hiding behind my teeth and sank into the seat as if it had been carved for this exact hour. The quiet did the rest. And I slept unafraid, unguarded, unannounced, like a door unlocked from the inside and gently closed. The first thing I saw was light, soft, pale, sneaking through the fogged window of my car like it didn't want to wake me. I blinked and watched the world turn from gray to gold. The rain had stopped. The air hung heavy with that clean, wet smell that only comes after a storm. I sat up slow, shoulders stiff, back sore, but lighter somehow. I took a deep breath, the kind you forget to take when life won't stop swinging at you. Still here, I said under my breath. Still breathing. No drama, no tears, just truth. The steering wheel still had the faint print of my hand from the night before. I touched it once more, smiled to myself, and started the car. The engine coughed, then purred. It sounded gentle, like even it knew something had shifted. The road was slick, but the sky was wide open. Every drop of rain left behind a mirror of light. I drove slow, no destination, no reason to rush. For the first time in years, my mind was quiet. No noise, no arguments, just the hum of tires and the rhythm of my own heartbeat keeping time with the morning. I passed the sign pointing back toward the highway, and for some reason, I laughed. Didn't think I'd ever feel this calm again, I said, shaking my head. It wasn't happiness, it was peace. The kind that doesn't shout, it just stays. When I reached the little church, it looked smaller in the daylight. The rain had washed everything clean, the steps, the glass, even the old wooden sign. The door was cracked open, same as it was last night. I stepped inside. The light from the stained glass spilled across the floor, soft and warm. The pastor was gone. All that remained was a Bible sitting open on the table, a few candles melted down to stubs. I walked forward slowly. The wooden floor creaked beneath me, like it recognized me this time. When I reached the front, I sat. Didn't kneel, didn't fold my hands, just sat like a man who finally had nothing left to prove. I looked up at the cross. Didn't say much, didn't need to. I still don't understand everything, I whispered. Then I paused and smiled. But I don't need to. Those words didn't come from my head, they came from somewhere deeper. The candlelight flickered once, then steadied, and for a moment, everything, the air, the wood, the light, just breathed with me. No miracles, no voices from the sky, just stillness, and me finally learning how to sit in it. I turned to look around. Empty pews, cracked hymn books, sunlight landing in all the right places. It wasn't grand, it wasn't dramatic. It was beautiful because it was ordinary. You'd laugh if you saw me here, I said quietly, smiling at the memory of my brother. Guess I finally listened. My throat tightened, not with grief this time, but with gratitude. I wiped at my eyes, but there were no tears. Just that full feeling when something heavy finally leaves. I sat there a while longer, listening to the wind slip through the doorway. It felt like a small hello from something bigger than me. When I finally stood, I pushed the door open. The light outside hit me straight on warm, almost blinding. The air smelled like wet grass and new earth. I took one long breath, the kind that fills your chest all the way. The world hadn't changed. The sky still moved slow. The birds still argued on the wires. But I had changed. That morning didn't change the world, I said softly. I took one more step onto the porch, eyes half closed against the light. It just changed me. I walked down the steps, hand brushing the cold iron railing. My car waited across the road, covered in dew. I didn't rush to get in. I just turned back one last time to the small church, the open door, the quiet that saved me. Another breath, slow, free. I smiled, not the practice smile people wear in public, but a real one. I opened the car door, slid in, and let the sun fill the windshield. And I said it one last time, not to the sky, not to anyone in particular, just to the quiet that had stayed with me all morning. Peace doesn't always come with answers. Sometimes it just comes when you stop demanding them. The engine started soft and steady. I let the moment breathe. I let it linger. Then I looked straight ahead and said quietly, like I was talking to every soul still out there fighting their own storm. If you've ever been there, if you've ever felt lost, angry, or tired of pretending you're strong, hit that like button, leave a comment, share what kept you going. Maybe someone else needs to hear it too. And if this story found you at the right time, don't forget to subscribe. There's more light coming.